Yes, hello, welcome back to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. My name is Connor Moran, and this is the first episode of the Rugby League Forecast podcast round preview. This is the round one preview. We've got 6 games to go of this weekend, so let's get straight into it. I'll give you my tips and whatnot. I'm not going to pretend I'm some rugby league expert, but what I am is a rugby league fan. I love the game and I love putting in tips. I love my tipping competitions, and I think it's really important to try and learn where other people come from as well when doing their tips. So let's go through it. For me in this game, since November, mid-November when the draw came out, straight away I've gone the Melbourne Storm, only based on the fact that I realised the only reason I'm tipping them is because they have a great record at Melbourne. And also, of course, the record of, I think, 23 round one wins in a row for Craig Bellamy. But as of yesterday, I've looked at the teams again, the team lists, and I looked at them again last night, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I'll tell you what, I reckon Parramatta might win this. There's something about it, you got to go with your gut feel. And I had a gut feel before the Newcastle game that Newcastle would win, and I was gutless. So I went, no, you know what, stick with your tip, stick with your tip. I'm just looking at these lineups, right? So Sua Farlago, he is a great player. He's a talent. For me, I think he's going to have an exceptional season in the NRL. I think he will have, by the end of the season, everyone will know about this young fullback at the Melbourne Storm, local junior as well. I think he'll have a great year. But the reality is he's played around 12 games of first grade. A lot of them have been on the wing. He's only played at least a game or two at fullback. That's a huge concern for me going into this game. Now, they've got no Xavier Coates, Melbourne. For me, that's a huge loss. The amount of times in a game that Jerome Hughes or Cameron Munster would crossfield kick it to Xavier Coates, they relied on so many points to come from his wing. And when they were down under pressure, a lot of the time was they would go to kick it towards Xavier Coates' wing, where 9 times out of 10, he'd jump up, catch it, and score. They lose that ability now. They lose that. They also lose Eli Katoa. For me, he's the biggest loss of the whole thing. Ryan Pappenhausen's a huge loss. I get that. Nelson Asofa Solomona, in my opinion, not a huge loss. In terms of size, he's a big loss, but he was just such a liability in defence. To be suspended in 2 grand finals in a row is really letting down a team. For me personally, I think the Melbourne Storm could actually be better without Nelson. I know that sounds silly, but I just think they could be a better, more disciplined side overall. But at the end of the day, he's a big boy and he's experienced. So he's without a doubt, he'll be a loss to some sort of extent. I'm just looking at the lineups here. Nick Meaney, in my opinion, I don't think he's played on the wing since 2023. Please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but he's lining up in the number 5 jersey. So you've got Moses Leo, who is not an experienced NRL player. He'll be lining up in the centres. And he'll be up against, on his edge, he'll be up against Will Penasini, I believe. So he hasn't had overly much experience. I thought Moses Leo's defence, he had some nice touches in the preseason trials, but he also missed a few tackles here and there too, which I thought he should have gotten. In the halves, this is where Melbourne can win, all right? You've got the halves, Munster, Hughes, and at hooker, Harry Grant. So you do have that. And Sua Farlago is an amazing talent. So their spine is phenomenal. You've got Stefano up front with Josh King. They're going to be pretty hard tonight. So look, but this is where I think Parramatta can beat them. They've got Joe Chan, who hasn't started many games in his career. Atavalu Lasati, who's replacing Eli Katoa in that number 12 jersey, and no Trent Loureiro. Now, Trent Loureiro, look, he's got some disciplinary issues in defence as well. He can give away penalties and silly penalties. But the thing is, he's almost like Jake Trbojevic at Manly, where he is the glue in their defensive line. Alec McDonald's a good player, but I feel like they're going to miss him now coming on from the bench after around 20 to 30 minutes. I'll look at their bench. Tyron Wishart, obviously, really good player. He's going to be strong off the bench, but Tui Kamika, he's at the back end of his career now, but will come on and do a good job. There's no doubt about it. Davey Moali playing his first game in the Melbourne system in an NRL match, and Cooper Clark. Apparently there's big raps on this young kid, but once again, very inexperienced. You have Alec McDonald starting at lock, and then Joe Chan and Atavalu Lasati. Fuck, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I mean, those edge forwards for the Melbourne Storm will be against Jack Williams, who was, in my opinion, the most underrated buy in rugby league in the NRL in season 2025. Jack Williams on one edge, a phenomenal defender and a great attacker. You've also got Katoni Katoga, who I thought was really, really strong for Parramatta last year, and Jack DeBellin. Well, look, he's at the back stage of his career, but he's going to be a huge loss for the Dragons this year, and I reckon he'll add a lot in that 13 jersey for the Parramatta Eels. This is where I really like the bench for Parramatta tonight. Dylan Walker at 14. He can come on, change a game. Oh, man. Well, like what he did to Parramatta last year after round 4 when he came to the Parramatta Eels from the New Zealand Warriors early on in the year. He came on and changed their attack. Whenever they were behind, they could come back. Their momentum was absolutely unstoppable once Dylan Walker would come on. He knew how to change a game. And if you've been listening to this podcast since early November, I've spoken about Dylan Walker, how he is one of the bench players that the NRL has seen since 1998. I think from the way he plays, I would suggest that his rugby league IQ would be really, really high, based on I think he actually really reads the game when sitting on the bench and trying to work out how he can make a difference in this game and get his team back on track. I think he will be really, really good tonight, Dylan Walker. Matt Dury, who can cover the edge. And look, 18 and 19, you've got 18 Kelma Talangi, who his best position is second row, and then you've got Joash Papali, so he can cover fullback and the halves or anywhere in the back line if they were really, really short. So I like Parramatta tonight. I like Parramatta tonight. I really do. Junior Paulo up front, Jermaine Hopgood. I just think his offloads at front row will be phenomenal tonight. I really like Riley Smith in that number 9 jersey. Mitchell Moses back. Look, I think Parramatta will be dirty about the way in which the Zach Lomax stuff, it's going to be spicy tonight. I reckon there might be a couple of push and shoves throughout the game. I reckon it's going to be a really, really good match. I know everyone's looking forward to the Brisbane and Penrith match, but for me personally, I'm looking forward to this match. With the whole Zach Lomax stuff that has happened, it's now finished, but there's going to be a lot of spice. And I reckon Parramatta will be going, you know what, fuck this. We're going to come here and we're going to win and we're going to end that record tonight. My personal opinion, as of last night, I reckon they're going to win. I reckon I'm going to tip Parramatta. Let's go to the next game. Friday at 6 o'clock, the Warriors and the Roosters. I won't go too long into this game. For me personally, since November, I was always going to tip the Roosters in this game. But I'm going to go the Warriors. As of last night, I've changed. I'm going the Warriors here. You look at the Roosters side, I think a much better team on paper. But this is at Go Media Stadium, which is the old Mount Smart Stadium. I think that, there's no doubt it'll be a sold-out crowd for the Wars. And, we see how they have lifted since 2023. At Go Media Stadium with a sold-out crowd. I think Tanner Boyd needs to have a really, really big game. I love the look of James Fisher-Harris and Jackson Ford up front. They are going to miss Mitch Barnett in this game, but I'm hearing that Robert Toya may be ruled out of this game. If that is the case, he will be up against Adam Pompey. So he will... he'll be up against Ali Latua, or whoever replaces him. I would suggest that Tommy Talau will replace him in the centres. Robert Toya would be a huge loss for the Roosters if he ends up being out of this game. I genuinely believe that the Warriors can win this. I just think the Roosters, I think they've won 3 of their last 13 or something around that for a round 1. They're one of the worst round 1 teams in the NRL since Trent Robinson has taken over in 2013. So I think there's a big chance the Warriors can win tomorrow night. Now, if I look back at the last few years in round 1, there's always 3 or 4 upsets. So I just think the home crowd could be a real any teams playing at home this week could really lift them. The only one I'm really worried about is Melbourne, to be completely honest. I love Leka Halasema coming off the bench. I reckon the Warriors will be ready to go. They'll be a bit annoyed about the way they finished last year, getting knocked out of week 1 of the semis after a really good year in the NRL. I think the Wars can beat the Roosters here. Sam Walker and Daly Cherry Evans, I know they only played one half in the preseason challenge together, together. But gee, I tell you what, they looked really fucking clunky. They really did. And as I've said on this podcast, my opinion is I reckon it could take them up to 10 weeks to fully combine. By mid-season, late season, I reckon they'll be one of the best halves combinations in the competition in season 2026. But I do have my doubts about the Roosters and how they start this season. I am going to go with the Warriors in this game to beat the Sydney Roosters. All right, the next game, Broncos and Penrith. Liam Martin's a huge loss. It's expected to rain, heavy rain at Brisbane over the weekend, starting from Friday onwards. I think it clears up on Monday, I'm pretty sure. A lot of rain, unfortunately. Cyclone warnings in Queensland, which is not good. But there's up to 10 to 20 mils coming for Brisbane tomorrow, and there'll be heavy rain expected tomorrow night at Suncorp Stadium. So take that in consideration when doing your tips for this week. Look, I'm going to go Brisbane here. Not overly confident, but I think Liam Martin now being ruled out is a huge loss. Luke Garner comes in, good player who'll do a good job for the Penrith Panthers, but I think Broncos wanting to start well, they'll be really disappointed about the World Club Challenge. Look, I would love to see Penrith win it, but at the end of the day, I just think if something happens to Adam Reynolds or Ezra Mam or Corey Pakes, and you've got Ben Hunt, one of the best 14s in the game now, he will come on and do a job anywhere. So experienced, over 300 games. They will miss Brendan Piakura, but I think Jack Kajeski is a good little replacement to start the season in round one for Brisbane in this game. Payne Haas, I reckon he could have one of the best games of his career in this game after everything being in the headlines, moving to South Sydney in season 2027 and beyond. I reckon Payne Haas will be unstoppable tomorrow. I'm going to go Brisbane at a sold-out Suncorp Stadium. All right, the next game we have Saturday, 5:30, Cronulla Sharks and the Gold Coast Titans. I'm going to keep this one short and simple. I'm going to go the Cronulla Sharks for a big win here. I like what I've seen from the Gold Coast Titans in the preseason challenge. I think they have been one of the most impressive teams to start the season within the preseason challenge. They look happy. They look like a coach. That they look like they have a coach that will be there for many, many years. There seems to be a culture change at the club where players now want to stay. Tino re-signing, Cooper By re-signing, both on long-term deals to stay at the club. I think from 2027 onwards, the Gold Coast Titans will be really, really good. But at the moment, I feel like their balance of their roster is out of whack at the moment. And this is a side that Josh Hannay has inherited. It's not really the team he has picked to an extent. So, look, I think they'll show up, the Titans. I think they'll do a decent job, but I liked what I saw from the Sharks in that second week of the preseason challenge. I think they'll be too good at home at Shark Park. Let's go to the next game, which will be the Manly Sea Eagles and the Canberra Raiders. Look, all off season, I was going to tip the Raiders here, but a couple of big outs. Matthew Tomoko in that number 3 jersey, he will be out. He's on the reserves, but they've named Simeon Sasangi to start in the 3 jersey. Owen Paddy, he wasn't impressive in the preseason challenge, but he's out in this game, right? So he's been demoted now to New South Wales Cup. So in my opinion, I think Owen Paddy is a huge loss in this game. Ethan Sanders playing his second game, lining up in the number 7 jersey of his career, his first game of the season. He will have pressure on him from Kobe Black from the Brisbane Broncos. Look, I'm a Manly fan. I'm a Manly tragic. If you had a list of the top 10 Manly fans in the world, I'd be there. Like, I love the club that much, but, being biased with my tipping has not helped me out in the past. I was going to go Canberra, and I genuinely believe Canberra will have a better season than Manly this year. I don't have Manly in the 8. Unfortunately, Christ, I hope I'm wrong with that one. But the Canberra Raiders, I believe, will finish in, not in the 8. I think they might finish around 9th. But I think they'll lose this game. I do. I really do. I think Matthew Tomoko defensively has poor reads, misses a lot of tackles when he needs to make them. But in saying that, especially on his goal line defense is not great. His attack, though, I feel that they will really miss that. A sold out 4 Pines Park at Brookvale Oval. I think the Manly Sea Eagles will get this job done in a really tight game. Of course, the final game of the round is between the Rabbitohs and the Dolphins. This is at Suncorp Stadium on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go the Rabbitohs here, and I'm pretty confident with this one. I know it's probably a toss of the coin, but I think the fact that they're playing at Suncorp, Wayne Bennett knows that, the Old Lang Park, better than anyone else. He knows how to play, how to coach on that. So many upsets he's coached on come from wins at Suncorp Stadium. I think that even though the Rabbitohs are the upsets and outsiders of this game, I think there are players such as David Fafita, Keon Kalamatangi, Bronson Garlick now in the number 9 jersey, Ashton Ward, Jack Whiten, Latrell Mitchell, Jai Gray. There are so many players in this side that have a point to prove, and I reckon they're going to do a really good job in this game. I have concerns over the Dolphins. Cameron Murray will be back. Lining up consistently in season 2026 in that 13 jersey. They certainly missed his leadership last year. Of course, he played in round 27 against the Sydney Roosters, but only that one game. But I have concerns. Jake Averillo, I did not like the way he performed in the preseason challenge. I think in attack, he had some nice moments. Defensively, really poor, made a few errors. Look, I tell you what, Tom Gilbert, he's lining up starting. For me personally, I think he's going to have a good year, but he hasn't played much football over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Kurt Donahue will do a good job in the number 9 jersey, but Jeremy Marshall-King, let's not underestimate how big of a loss he is for the Dolphins in this game. He is a huge, huge loss. They also do not have Max Plath lining up in this game, which I am surprised it hasn't been spoken about enough. If he is one of the best young forwards in the game, personally, I believe he'll make his origin debut in season 2026 for the Queensland Maroons, and I just think that I think they looked really poor in the preseason challenge. I thought the Dolphins were one of the most disappointing teams, and as I've said on this podcast a lot of times, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, they're only trials. You can't take anything out of the trials." I do to an extent. I really do. You need to see if teams are clicking before others. There are not much you can take out of it, but there are a few things. And what I did take out of it is when the Dolphins did play, I thought they were quite disappointing at certain moments through the preseason challenge. The results would reflect that too. Trey Fuller, I do like him starting at 17, but yeah, I'm going Souths in this game. So they are my tips. I'm going Parramatta tonight. The next game, I will be tipping the Warriors. The second game, I'll be tipping Brisbane to beat the Penrith Panthers. And then I've got the Sharks beating the Titans by quite a margin, actually. And then I've got the Manly Sea Eagles beating the Canberra Raiders at 4 Pines Park. And then the South Sydney Rabbitohs beating the Dolphins. That is my tips. That is the round 1 preview. Of course, I did a Las Vegas preview for the games next week, but this is the official round 1 preview. It is very early here in the Adelaide Hills. I am now going to get ready, go to work before the little kids wake up, and change a few shitty nappies. So I might fly as soon as I can. So thank you very much for listening to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. That is the round 1 preview ready to go. Enjoy your football over the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. And what a weekend of football. There will no doubt be at least 2 or 3 upsets, in my opinion. It's always the way round 1 goes. Hopefully. Let's all aim on this podcast to get at least 6 out of 8 every weekend. All right, let's try and get at least 6 out of 8. It's going to be hard many weeks, but if we can try and get at least 15, let's aim for 12 to 15 weekends where we can try and get 6 out of 8, then you'll be winning your tipping comps. Might be impossible, but it's nice to have high expectations here in the Centre of Excellence. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.